Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Program Director for Communication, Media, and Ethics here at Mid-America Christian University. And this video represents our asynchronous interview number 4 for COM 4603, Creating Social Media Presence and Cultural Movements. I am joined in person with our 4th interviewee. This is Jameson Kiefover. Jameson is, as we've previewed already in the class, an aspiring young documentary filmmaker. But that's not all, folks. This is a mixed media persona. She has experience across a number of platforms and mediums. All right, so she has worked with commercial production, development, broadcast news, not only on a collegiate or college campus level, but also interned with one of our local affiliates and she has training in traditional journalism and mass communication or broadcast communication with her degree. And so I think we will unpack many of these items as we go, and as always, get to your interview questions. An exciting part of our experience, learning about the art and craft and everyday life use of interviewing. And Jameson, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your experiences. We've got some student questions on deck, but did I outline everything all right in our preview video, or are there any updated, what do you call it, like professional roles that you want to correct this on or tell us about? You sort of
I am a reporter journalist, which means that the only time I'm on camera is to make sure that I'm giving facts. I'm not really an entertainment person. I'm more of information, and even if I do a documentary and I'm hosting, it's still only to give information about the subject that we're covering. It's not really like, I'm not really like some type of personality that's gonna give my opinions or anything like that, because that means I'm doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
I'm giving my opinion.
This is a great point of distinction to make, because for those of us in the field of communication or mass communications, oftentimes that public perception can be skewed or misinformed as to what we do. And part of that strategy is because we do so many things. A communication degree can set a person up for a variety of professional tasks and experiences and professions. And your early career work exemplifies that.
Yes. Lots of different things that you have to do to make sure you kind of decide what you want to do, but also get the experience and knowledge that you need to figure out what area you really want to go into.
Okay, and so hopefully our student questions cover the spectrum of areas that you have some experience in, and we look forward to checking these out. Let's jump right in and hear from our students, and we'll work through those, have a conversation ultimately about her experiences, what we can gain from it, and ideally you all will have takeaways as viewers, as audience members that are also participants. Let's start with questions from John.
And my question for you today is, could you describe maybe the moment or the events that led up to your career choice, and maybe the mentor program or mentor who or describe what was the best for you in leading to your decision for this career? Thank you.
Going? Okay. So I actually realized I wanted to go into broadcast journalism whenever I was preteen, I guess. I listened to a lot of talk radio. I watched a lot of national news, and I did speech and debate in high school, and so I was constantly having to stay up to date on stuff, and I think it's kind of like do what you know type situation, and so I was constantly keeping up with current events and really interested in them. But then I also really liked the way TV did things. It wasn't just reading constantly. You had so many different aspects of a news organization, and so you would have a panel, you would have a host, you would have on location reporters, and so there were so many elements that made it so exciting to me. And so I set a goal for myself. I wanted to be a TV news correspondent and ultimately get my own television show focusing on politics and international relations. But once I got into school, I went to college and started studying broadcasting at OCU, and I kind of started to veer towards being behind the camera and some of those more creative developments, because they don't really tell you this, but you don't have a lot of control over what you are reporting on. Whenever you're a reporter, you know, it's what's happening then, you go on the story and you do it. But I kind of decided I wanted to be the person making the calls of what stories that we would cover, and what was important, what would be the best information for people. So throughout college, I did, you know, my own talk show. I did, you know, news-based reporting. I've done behind the camera stuff, and so it's just been a lot of everything. And my student professional internship with my professor, like John was asking about my mentor. So I had Andy Gibson, who was my professor in broadcasting, and he was also my boss. And so I ran the TV news station, or the news station for our school with him, and he helped me with all of my projects and just kind of led me in the right direction. But once I kind of said, okay, this is, you know, what I'm gonna do, he would just be there to help me with, you know, logistics and things like that. So I was telling people the other day, whenever it comes to like biology and stuff, you constantly have to keep learning the information and terminology, and you have to study a lot. With mass comm and communications, it's a lot of, you learn the basics, and then it's kind of like you take your own turn and just like keep on applying those basics. So instead of sitting with a book all the time, you're creating videos, and you're just kind of doing more creative stuff, figuring out what you care about, what you want to talk about. And so for me, it was a lot of not trial and error, because you don't really make, you know, you're not going to broadcast those errors, you're going to edit them out, and that gives you more experience. But I ultimately decided I wanted to do TV news, switched around a little bit, and right now I just graduated, and I'm looking at a lot of my options. And that's what's the best part about communications, is you have a lot of options.
You mentioned Andy Gibson as a faculty member that impressed you and sort of provided some mentoring roles. And one of the things we want to understand the importance of is people that can either have direct connections or create connections for us. What was Gibson someone that was sort of opening these specific doors for you, or was it a case where teaching you how to go out and locate these, you know, these leads and insert yourself into opportunities?
I think it was a little bit of both. In my internship role with him, it was a lot of people contacting him about jobs, and then him being like, well, I have the perfect student for you. And so I would go and do that. But then it got to the point where I would, you know, meet somebody because of a job, and then that person would remember me and then refer me for another job, because they were like, oh, she did so great on this, let's go ahead and put her on that. So that is mostly the film world. The film world gives you a lot of referrals. Once you meet one person on a job, you're just going to continue building that networking. And so he was someone who introduced me to people that continued this. But whenever it came to broadcasting, it was a lot more of just him fueling my ideas. So I would run ideas by him, he would take them, and then kind of point me in the right direction. And so that wasn't so much of like who you know, it's more what you know. And so that was a good way for him to kind of mentor me in that way. But then on the film side, and just like getting jobs, and because, you know, a lot of my experience with broadcasting was, you know, I got that internship, and then you're in that one organization for a long time. Whenever it comes to film, you're going to be, you know, I worked for American Airlines for a week, I worked with True TV for a week, and so you're freelancing. So it's a lot of, you meet this one person, they get you your next job, and you're just moving along.
Absolutely. And we just finished interviewing with Leah Sutherland, a young podcast producer out in Los Angeles, and she described working in the entertainment industry this same process of being open and receptive and observant enough to shift from role to role, but also cash in on networking opportunities as a regular part of your job description.
Yeah, and it's not even so much working whenever you're networking with people you know, because if you genuinely like somebody and you're thinking, wow, we get along on a personal level, we'll probably get along on a professional level with your expertise, my expertise, it's gonna meld well. And if it doesn't, then you don't work with that person anymore. But you don't burn bridges, and that's the biggest part about networking is you have to put yourself out there. Like, you know, I go to so many, you know, film like fundraisers and things like that, and sometimes I'm working them, sometimes I'm just there supporting people. But even though I'm just there supporting someone else doesn't mean that I can't make a connection myself, which I've done.
Okay. Let's squeeze in another quick question from a student before we take our first break here, and let's see what Kimberly has for us.
Hi guys, my name is Kimberly DeLorge, and for COM 4603 Week 4 video discussion, my question for Jameson Kiefover would be, out of all the projects and teams that you've been a part of, which one has been the most meaningful to you personally, and why? Thank you so much for your time today.
All right. Do you have a tops in your list?
Yeah, I've done so much independent work. It's easy to pick out the things I worked on teams with, and so I have one that is like we all worked really well together, and I learned so much from trusting other people. So Press Watch 2016, the show was an interview talk show, very closest thing you can get to like national network TV. And so we had panels, we had questions, and we focused on the 2016 election and how the media was covering it. And so that was a lot of fun because I had people who were older than me that I was able to look up to for different ideas and things like that. But I also have an example of, you know, you're in a situation and you know that like this is not the team for you, and it was the OCU consent video. And so the issue was I was a lot more experienced in film and, you know, coordinating locations and situations like that, and these were people who only knew in studio stuff. Okay. So it made me realize how important it is that you know basic terminology and those basics whenever it comes to film versus broadcasting, because studio terminology is completely different than the way that film works. And so I had to kind of step up and be that person to kind of show everyone the way, even though I was the youngest person in the class. But that made me realize it's really important to communicate with people, because if, you know, I come up to you and say, do this job, and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I assume since we're on the same project, you know, that's going to lead to more miscommunication in the long run. So you're always going to get a lesson out of a team, but Press Watch 2016 for life, I guess.
Press Watch 2016. And really quickly, is that available anywhere? Is it archived somewhere?
Yes.
How is it distributed?
On YouTube, the best, you know, website for this. So if you go to Oklahoma City University Mass Comm, so OCU Mass Comm, all of my videos are there right now, and I'm in the process of making my own website, and that is a lot. But YouTube has it, and all the episodes are about, you know, 20 to 30 minutes long. Sometimes I'm just doing a segment, sometimes I'm hosting the whole thing. But yeah, episode 3, I believe, of Press Watch.
Excellent. Press Watch, you heard it here. Check it out. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with part 2 of our asynchronous interview number 4.